Hello everybody and welcome to a tutorial series on Gimmick. I figured that even though we have some pretty solid tutorials, they're a little bit long form and they're not broken out and more organized. So I wanted to put together a beginner-oriented series to help people get into the game with a little bit more structure and ease for those who are looking for a faster way to kind of look at specific areas. I'm not going to go over every piece of technique that the game has, as some of the things are a little bit more advanced than I'm really used to doing. I'm not the best player of this game by any means, but I do know enough about all of the routes and tricks to give at least a basic tutorial for those who are looking to get into the game. This particular video is going to go over the basics of movement and item manipulations, etc., and we're going to use that as sort of a thing to build the rest of the series off of. So the first thing to note is that Yumitaro has a little bit of momentum. So when you stop, you actually slide a little bit. So getting used to that does take a little bit of time, because essentially if you expect to let go and stop, it's not going to happen that way. It's like a tiny amount of ice physics no matter where you're at. And then things like slopes will actually keep you going forward. So you kind of have to be careful about where you're standing and things like that. The B button generates your star. This tool is used all over the place, and we'll go over to more advanced usage of it a little bit later, as well as in some of the actual stages. But essentially it's your attack, and it's also a movement technique, as well as a point generator, which is all helpful. You have variable height jumps, so if you press the A button, you jump. If you hold the button, you jump higher than if you just tap the button. So this has a little bit of use, but it is something to keep in mind. So like if you're getting used to certain areas, you might want to know exactly how high you need to jump, because you can kind of gain a little bit of extra time by jumping exactly how much you need to. The next piece, with a star, to go over star rides, essentially the basics are that you want to throw a star against a wall and then land on the star. And there's a lot of different ways you can utilize this technique. Like for example, I could jump, up off of a ledge to get to a higher place, or perhaps, use it to get faster across the screen. So maybe something like this. Okay, that kind of thing. It's all based off of the same mechanics, which is essentially I throw a star against a wall and land on the star. And every star ride that you'll see has some version of that, except for some of the more advanced stuff, which I probably won't go over, but essentially you can use corners to throw a star forward and not have to actually turn around, and it's tricky, and it's something you can use later down the line. But yeah, that's the basics of star rides. So there's also the series of items. So again, down we'll switch through them. But you have the pink potion, which will heal you to full. So, oh man, I took damage. Oh no, I'm taking damage. Oh, I'm gonna heal myself. So I hold up, press B, get heals. That's how that particular item works. The bomb has a lot of uses, including the fact that you can land on it. It's also able to hit certain enemies that have vulnerability frames at the time without having to worry about it, which is really helpful. As well as it throws in an arc, as opposed to the star where it kind of throws downward. This will actually throw up and around. So if I wanted to hit that enemy that spawns over here, I have to kind of be careful about when I throw it. So, but you can see how it sort of bounces. And when it hits an enemy, it detonates, but also it has a timer if it doesn't. The next is this fireball. It's a straightforward projectile. It can hit enemies multiple times, so there's a few mini bosses we use this for. But it's a seldom used item. I think there's only like 2 or 3 of them used in the entire route. But again, that's a useful thing. And then the drop tables for items aren't random. They're actually based off the last 3 digits of your score. Most specifically the 10s and the 100s, because you actually can't get 1 point. You only get things in 10s. So the drop tables, which I'll throw as a little bit for use on YouTube, but just to read them off. Potions drop on 000 and 550. So 550 and 000 are potions. And so if I kill an enemy at those values, I'll always get a potion. Then there are fireballs. Those are at 110, 330, 770, and 990. So essentially that's the odd numbers except for 550. And then bombs, which are your most important item throughout the run. Those are the even numbers, which is 220, 440, 660, and 880. So like right now I have 920 points. If I got myself another, 70 points, which I can get by just landing on an enemy, or maybe even killing this one. I don't know, we're at 40 now. So let's just reload the game. So again, 000 if I kill a guy, potion. And that's that. So then now I have 840, let's get 50, 60, 90. Okay, so now I'm gonna get a fireball. fireball. Also a thing to note, I can't really push these together, but if 2 items go together, they'll actually merge to make a 1-up. And then lastly, these orange potions will give you your health boosts. So point management is important for this run. So there's a couple ways to do that. One you just saw me doing there a little bit. I was jumping on the enemy to get 10 points. Killing enemies gives you a variable number of points, so you might have to memorize certain enemies if you're trying to improvise with that. And then the other and more useful one is grinding, and you can do this on enemies of some type. Basically anyone that's moving that doesn't have like an instant hurt box, for example. As well as stars. And star grinding is pretty straightforward. Essentially, the idea is you're walking on and off of an enemy or a star, and every time you do this, you get 10 points, because you're essentially landing on the star or enemy. So basically, when you're on a star, when you're going up, you hold to the direction the star's going in. So in this case, it'd be right. Boom. And you can kind of see how I got a little bit of points there. So this becomes really helpful in certain areas where it allows you to manage your points without losing any time, because you're going to already wanted to use a star anyways. And that's that. The last piece of the puzzle is momentum saving, which is used in a couple of places. Essentially, if you're moving on a slope and you gain speed from that slope, when you hit the ground, you can essentially tap the jump button to keep that momentum going forward. So in this particular piece, for example, I can jump and then tap jump, and I can keep kind of keeping this the speed. Or it's more noticeable here, where I can use the ramp to be keeping the speed all the way through the stage. But this is also helpful for places where you don't have a ramp, because if you keep tapping the button, like if I had momentum going into this, I could keep jumping and keep the momentum going through this too, as opposed to walking at normal speed. So that's an important piece of that part. It's not used that often, but there are a few places where you do want to absolutely use momentum saving where you can. Yeah, that's the basics of the game. Hopefully this helps get kind of a grasp over the mechanics and sort of the underlying things. We'll go into more detail when we go into the actual routes, as I've said before. But for now, this is Figbird signing off.